All right, we are live. Hello, and I'm double checking a few things just to make sure my sound is on. Everybody can hear me. I got a couple different screens. If I look this way, if I look that way, that's what's going on. Especially today, we're going to be looking at a lot of questions that came in yesterday via email and text, and I really appreciate you guys sending those. A lot of stuff is going to be stuff I'm addressing this Sunday, so I won't probably go over everything, but honestly, there's a lot of specific questions that I just wouldn't have time to get into on Sunday, so I'm going to do my best today to talk through that. However, I want to make sure you guys also can ask questions today as we're doing this, as we're live, and you can also post comments in here later on if that's something that if this is a discussion that you want to continue to have, that's fine too. This is a very subjective somewhat conversation. Sunday is I do my very best Sunday to bring about the principles that I believe God called us to as parents, which is the ultimate end of the series, practical parenting. But when it comes to how you handle technology and social media in your home, it's up to you. So I'm going to address a few of the questions I've gotten today from kind of some small things I've collected over time, books I've read, things I feel like is valuable. But it's still going to be up to you as to what you want to do and how you do it with your kids. So we'll give it one more minute, let some folks get on, and we'll go from there. And this is actually, I decided to do this on our partner page primarily because this is partners that ask the questions versus it on our public page. I will post it on YouTube, so it's available on our YouTube channel publicly in case people want to view that on YouTube. It's fine, but I wanted to make sure that for our Journey family, this just didn't feel like something I was going to put on the public side. I thought I'd just go put it in our private group, our Journey Partners group, since again most of these questions are coming from our partners. I'm excited about this Sunday. We actually had toyed around with a couple different ideas. At one time we were going to do a panel, which I still think would have been a great idea, just depended on time. We wanted to do parents of different age kids, kind of talking about some of the things that Don talked about in terms of practical parenting. And we decided that this has just been one of those topics that people have had for so long about technology and social media and how we do it and what can parents do and not do. And a lot of parents just feel overwhelmed with the conversation and feel overwhelmed with what to do. And I just want you to know I'm right there with you. I think I made a comment to Don the other day when we were doing our other Q&A after the sermon is, honestly, I personally feel like I am an early adopter at heart when it comes to technology. If I had the money and resources, I would purchase and engage in every new advancement in technology that I felt like was something that I could use or learn about. Because I love it. I love being on that front line. I'm definitely an early adopter of those things. Definitely an early follower because of finances and resources. I would say even right now with my kids, I have a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old. I'm having to still do a lot of research. They'll come to me with games or apps or solutions that I've never heard of before, and so I'm with you. I have to say no. I have to say, let me look at it first. I have to go online and do the hard work. And sometimes I download the apps and try it out myself. Sometimes I'll read reviews. There's great reviews online for pretty much almost anything. Family First, Family Matters has a great review site, especially for media. Kids First or Kids in Mind, I believe, is another one that does well for media. TV shows and things like that. So there's just things like that hey, we're all doing it. We're all parents. We're all working through this together. So let me go ahead and jump in if you're ready. This is a question. I'm kind of looking at my question sheet over here just to let you know. I wanted to look at my question sheet and hold on one second. Let me have to make sure I got my live thing going here. Okay. What we primarily see in terms of questions is just what is the parent's role? Is there limits? Are there limits to what the parents can and cannot do when it comes to technology and social media with their kids? And so that question comes in a variety of forms. One is, how do we check our kids' phones? Does it invade their privacy? When we check it, do we do it with them, or do we do it by ourselves? What happens when we hold them accountable and we get the attitude kind of thing? And it's a lot of trial by error in that world. Let's see here. Another one was how do you help determine time and age for social media accounts and for technology. And again, this is a lot of subjective stuff, so I'm just going to kind of run through this pretty quickly. But let me first of all say I definitely come from a place in a school that you have every right to do whatever you feel like you need to do as a parent when it comes to technology and social media. When it comes to devices, let me just put it that way. When it comes to devices, your kids are going to have the devices you give them or you allow them to buy. And so the reality is that it's 100% within your control as a parent as to what they have access to. And so, if they were whining to you at 8 years old and wanted a phone and you bought them one when they were 10, that was a decision you made. Now, you're not stuck with that decision because you can take that phone away pretty much anytime you want to. And a lot of parents kind of feel like they can't do things. They can't. I don't know. Maybe that's a different sermon about discipline. But my kids. I've made it pretty clear to my kids that they own nothing. That nothing that they have is theirs. That everything when it comes to what we've provided for them is an issue of stewardship. And if I don't feel like they are stewarding something well, it will be taken away, and that will go from toys when they're young to technology as they get older to cars. If I don't feel like they're stewarding something well, they won't have it. And so I don't really view technology any differently. Gaming systems, phones, tablets, computers. I have 100%. The internet in my house is 100% within my control as a parent. And so what I do with it, what I don't do with it, is up to me. And so as a parent, I just maybe need to speak into your life some freedom, that you have that right, that's your job, that's your role as a parent, is to help understand help your children walk through an understanding of stewardship. One of the reasons children don't understand stewardship is because we adults don't model it for them. They don't see us stewarding our stuff well, and they don't steward their stuff well. We'll talk a little bit about that on Sunday, but that's the reality. And so this sort of selfish, entitled attitude of it's mine, you can't tell me what to do, you can't do that, that's not fair. There's something natural within them that does that, but the truth is that's just a reflection of what they see. And so helping them continue to go, no, it's a privilege, this is an opportunity, this is a privilege, is a big deal. So I would just encourage you as a parent, if you're having trouble determining time or access, or taking your kids' devices away, that is just not a struggle you should be worried about. That should be, just settle that in your mind, that it's that everything your kid has been provided to them by you. I don't even care if they've bought it with money they've earned. It's still something I've allowed them to do. And my kids have pulled that every once in a while with something that they've purchased. And I've said, watch me take it. If it can be taken, then you don't own it. It's not yours. And so I need my kids more than anything technology does. I need my kids to understand stewardship. And my kids need to understand the privilege So when they start using words like, well, I deserve this, or I need to be able to do this, I need a phone, no, we get to, we get to have opportunities to do this. We get to use the internet. It's everything that we have is a privilege. Even, again, adults need to learn this just as much, and parents need to learn this just as much as kids do. So that was a couple big ones that came out in terms of questions. Here's some real specific ones that came out. When do you know what the right age to allow your child to be introduced to social media? I personally have a personal opinion about this, that I don't feel like you should have to lie to get your kid a social media account. And so most social media accounts limit the age to 13. I think there's a reason for that. Excuse me. I think there's a reason for that. If your kids just demand they have Instagram, they must have this, they must have that, and you as a parent have just decided to lie and get them one, I don't know what you're telling your kids, but I just personally believe that's not something you should ever have to do, is lie in order to get your kids access to something, when there's probably a reason they don't have access, okay? When it comes to age, to be honest, this is an emotional IQ issue. So if you ever heard of EQ, which is emotional capacity, it just has to do with where your kid's at emotionally in terms of how they respond to things and how they intentionally approach things. This has nothing to do with how the age of your child, and I'm telling you, this doesn't have anything to do with, my 8th grader reads at a college level. Whoop-de-doo. I don't care. This has everything to do with the emotional state and the emotional development of an adolescent. And so, we pushed off stuff in our home probably as late as we possibly could. I just recently gave my 14-year-old access to Instagram with a lot of parameters around the usage of Instagram. There's no reason for them to need anything else or have anything else. So, they don't have it. There's other reasons I'll get into a little bit Sunday about why I'm careful about those things, but it's your decision. Social media is simply a really large playground or party that your kids are invited to. And the moment you allow them to go to the playground with those kids, or the moment you allow them to go to the party, it's just more on you as a parent. You certainly need to know who's at the party. And you need to know the circles and networks that are involved in that. And so some social networks make it easier for you to be able to guide that with your kid. Some are unlimited access. And since when was unlimited access ever a good deal for a child? Since when have they ever allowed anything unlimited to be a positive thing in their life? Okay, that's our role as a parent, is to help understand guidelines and to help them with access and opportunity, and to sometimes limit those things. So, yeah, I would just say, I can't give you the age. That's a decision you're going to make. But I would use be way more focused on how do they respond to things socially and emotionally, and how do they approach things. Because if they're looking for something to fill a hole, to fill a need that they feel like social media is going to do, it's probably going to do it, and it's going to do it in a way that you don't want it to happen. So I would say just use that as your guide. Another one that came out was, again, going back to balancing overexposure to social media. Well, again, I go back to this is an issue of access. I'll give you another personal example. I limit my daughter's access at home. I use Circle, which is a Disney product. I limit the access that she has to Instagram. And if I told you the amount that I limit it to, you would be like, Matt, are you serious? Like, you only give her that much time on Instagram? Well, here's the reason why. I know that she has access anytime she has her phone with her and any other network she goes to. She goes to the pool. She goes to church. She goes to her friend's house. She gets Wi-Fi and access all throughout the day at different opportunities. I know she accesses and uses. We were at Disney last week. She used access that she had no limit to Disney Wi-Fi except for where it was in the park. So she has access there. So because I know that she has access in more than just my home, I limit that access because I don't want there to be well, I have to have this, because there's just other ways for them to receive and get those things that I don't feel like it has to all be at home, and therefore I don't want it to be all at home. And again, going back to it, since when has unlimited access ever been a good idea for children? Children, as they grow in their adolescence, obviously age has a part in this, but children don't have internal limits. Children don't have internal guides for what's wise in terms of we're teaching them how to use their time. That's part of it. So I would just throw that out there to say, if you're not limiting access and opportunity, that's something you should be doing. And I say that as a parent who loves you. All right. Let me go down a couple more. There's tips and tricks, tips for teenagers to prevent vanity, self-centeredness, and narcissism. How do we ban the selfie? I'm not sure you will ban the selfie. People were doing selfies long before social media came around. I'm sure it's a little bit more extreme, as with all things, with being hyper-connected in a big media world. I would say, when it comes to helping walk through vanity and self-centeredness and things, that's not a new thing. That's something our parents had to deal with us on. They're just, it's just a different form. It's just a different form than how we do it. I would say the same principles apply in terms of wisdom. Start asking your kids why. Why did they want to post that? Why did they feel the need to take that picture? Asking why is always a good question, because your kids might get on the defensive, but the reality is that having a good open dialogue, as Donnie talked about Sunday, in terms of open lines of communication, just asking them why, or what was the purpose of it, or what are they getting from that? Like what do you receive when you post a picture like that? And if they can tell you, and there's some intentionality behind it, and maybe they do have some thought behind it, and as long as you feel like it's something you can guide, then you should just kind of like walk with that. There's some people are more interested in those things than others. Some people don't ever want their picture taken because they already have self-esteem issues, and those are things you need to talk about. You don't need to just worry about the kid that's taking selfies all the time. You need to worry about the one that doesn't, because again, this is part of the process of parenting and helping your children grow into becoming adults. So I would start asking why, asking what are they getting from something, why do they enjoy it, and just, again, walking through motivations. This goes back to emotional EQ. This goes back to emotional responses. I think that's a good suggestion. Talking about the studies that show about addicted behavior, addicted to video games, addicted to internet, the reality is it's true. Our dependence on devices is growing rampantly. Our dependence on when it comes to addiction, when it comes to technology addiction, adults suffer from this far worse than children do. So the studies, we look at the kids, but quite frankly, the studies are done on adults, and the adults are just as addicted to internet and behavior and those things as kids are, because it plays with it toys with the center of our mind that responds to that. If it's a never-ending loop, never-ending loops allow us to continue to engage in something that's giving us something, giving our brain something, and anything that's a never-ending loop is something that we can be addicted to. So, for example, most games, when I'm just throwing this out there, when I was a child, there was a beginning and there was an end to a game. And that was built that way for a reason, just like there was board games, just like there was anything else. There was a beginning, there was an end, there was a winner. And a lot of things built today are sort of just this constant, I think it's called free roam, free range, wandering around this world, discovering new things, new levels. It's a never-ending cycle, which only feeds the addictive behavior, so I would probably look at that. I know for my son, it's Fortnite. Fortnite is an unending loop. You're involved in the game, and then you can be killed or out, and you just jump right back into another game. So it's kind of this never-ending There's like, for example, Fortnite. There's never a good time to stop Fortnite. There's, it's always like, oh, I'm almost done, or I'm in the middle of something. Well, that's because it's built that way. It's built to sort of, get into that mind, get into where your psychology just constantly wants more. The same thing goes with Facebook. Why do you think we scroll? And we just scroll, and we scroll, and we scroll, and we scroll, and we scroll, and it never ends, and it never ends, and it never ends. And that's because it was built that way. So I would say pay attention to that. Again, when it comes to kids, you just have to limit the access. Our job with children is to provide opportunity and access and help them understand time management. I personally have to, especially when I'm at work, if I go on Facebook or do something, I have to set a timer. And the reason I set a timer is because I can get lost, just like everybody else, watching cat videos and other fun stuff that I enjoy. I love old YouTube. I can get lost on YouTube. That's just the way it is. I set timers so that I'll set 15-minute timers and 20-minute timers just so that I don't, and they'll go off and be a reminder for me that, do I really want to lose another 20 minutes just randomly searching? No, I can shut it off and do it. So even as an adult, I have to build those parameters in. Same thing goes for, again, whether you use a net nanny or you use your router at home or use a device like Circle or things on someone's phone. You can set the parameters and access. Our children, we're fighting with this, especially with our older kids, as to how much access do they have to my fridge and my pantry, right? How much access do they have to just eat whenever they want? Well, no. We've given them more access as they've gotten older, but the truth is that there is still a rule, there is still a limit, there is still something that we're teaching our kids about the fact that you can't just go and endlessly eat or just eat whenever you want, especially when we're making dinner or we're doing something. So we have, we in all other areas of life that make sense to us, we already build these things in. You just have to understand that's the same logic that applies to social media. It's the same logic that applies to the technology that they have. And how much access is up to you. Again, I'm not here to tell you what's good and bad. And I know some people that limit game time to 30 minutes, and I know some people that limit it to 4 hours, and both feel like they're doing the right thing. And so I'm not telling you those things. It's going to be up to you as a parent, but at the end of the day, just stick with it. Just teach. Just allow. The other thing I like about Circle, just to let you know, two things I like about Circle is that at any point it gives us the ability to pause the internet across every device in our house. Or it allows me to go directly to the device they're on and pause it just for that device. So if I need to cut them off from anything, I can cut them off pretty much with my phone and just done. And then the other part I like about the Circle app or the Circle device is that through the app, it also allows me to reward. So, for example, I have time limits set on certain things for social media, and when my kids, they've used up their time, and they're always begging us. Listen, it's just the reality. My kids are always begging us for more time. Just the way it is. You got to parent through that, just like anything else. Just like they want to have another bowl of ice cream, you got to parent through the wise decisions. But there is an opportunity that if something's gotten done, or I need something done, and I can leverage a little bit of the reward aspect of things. Hey, you did this. You were able to help us out. And when they ask me for 30 more minutes, and I'm able to respond in such a way that says, you know what, sure, I'll be glad to do that. And actually, the way it is even stated on the app is reward. And so I'm able to reward them with another 15 minutes of that, or another 30 minutes of this. And my kids, I want my kids to see that. I want my kids, again, from a stewardship standpoint, to see that as a reward, to see that as I've used all the time that's been allotted to me. I'm being rewarded with more time. And again, they beg for it like homeless children, but that's just part of being kids. So I remember begging my parents for everything. So I want them to know reward, and I love the language of that, even within the thing. So I'm looking at here. I'm looking at a few more. It says, what are good ground rules to have with social media and teenagers? Can the parent see all and know all and confiscate all at any time? Yes. emphatic the way Paul uses it in Scripture? Hell yes, you can. Because the reality is again, this is a stewardship issue. I'll talk more about this on Sunday, and this is going to be a big part of Sunday, is helping people understand the thing what you're struggling with social media is not any different than what your parents had to deal with you. It's just a different form. Okay, it's just a different form. Your parents wanted to know who was going to be at the person's party. They wanted to know who's going to be there. Can I go to Susan's house? Sure. Who's going to be there? The reason the parents wanted to know is because Susie's fine, and Timmy's fine, and Johnny's fine, and Susanna's fine. But if Margaret's going to be there, I'm sorry if your name's Margaret. If Margaret's going to be there, your parents had a red flag. Your parents understood there might be something there. There might be an issue. That's one of the reasons parents wanted to know. And you as a child also knew how to lie to your parents. You knew how to come home from a party and not tell them that Margaret showed up. And that's a trust issue between parents and kids. And whether there's open lines of communication and whether parents freak out, there's a whole nother. Go back and listen to Donnie's message. But it's really not any different when it comes to social media. You have every right to know the network and circle that your friends have on social media. Doesn't matter what the social media platform is. You can see who all their friends are. That's important for you. You need to be able to see the conversations, whether that means you're connected to their account, meaning you're a friend or you're someone who follows them, and you can see all that they do and all that they post, because everything's usually pretty permanent. So you need to be able to see that. And the other part of it that you maybe, if you can't see it, is that if I can't see it, then I get the username and password. I get to have access to the account. Matter of fact, I want the username and password for all my kids' stuff, because quite frankly, I have the right to take it away. If we try something, and this is where I think I mentioned this last Tuesday, if we try something and it's not working out, it was a bad decision. I want to be able to look at my kids and go, you know what? This is a bad decision. This is your dad's bad. I said yes to this. Probably it isn't working out. I'm going to have to take it away. And I want to have the right to be able to say that and be able to say that it is my fault and I'm sorry for the pain it's going to cause and I'm sorry for the the stuff we're going to have to work through because I made a bad decision. It's not the kids. They might assume it's their fault or that you don't trust them, but the truth is, if it's not working out, you need to be able to have the right to do that. So I want the kid, I'm going to want the passwords and all that to my kids' stuff anyway. I have passwords to their phones, their devices. It's just the way that is. I can go through and look at text and all that other thing. Now text they can delete. Sure, that's not a problem. To be honest, I probably worry less about what my kids are hiding than I worry about whether or not we're going to have a relationship to walk through the stuff that's actually going to be a problem in the future. If my kids feel the constant need to hide things from me, that's probably an issue that I need to address somewhere else. And so I want to hold them accountable, but at the same time, I want to continue to give them freedom to risk things, and they need to kind of feel the weight of their consequences, the weight of their decisions. When they let someone into a house party that's going to monopolize the conversation, and they probably shouldn't have done that, and they have to go to another group and figure that out. Well, they're already living through some of the consequences of what it looks like from when Margaret shows up. I hate to pick on Margaret, but I want them to kind of experience some of those things as they grow. This is age appropriate, obviously, as they continue to grow up, because I only have them for so long. Again, I'm a steward of them. I'm living stewardship with my kids. I only have them for so long. I want them to be able to experience some of those things within the safety of living in my home and be able to have us there to walk through this with them. Here's a couple more, and we'll wrap it up today. This one's from a parent talking about struggles. They say, I struggle as a parent in allowing myself to get mindlessly wrapped up in scrolling through Facebook. When I do get the few minutes to sit down, it's easy for me to zone out without having to exert any energy with conversation with others and working all day dealing with others. So there at least is an honesty there. Listen, sometimes I just zone out in media. That's fine. Another struggle they have is when my 5-year-old spends way too much time playing on my phone so that I can get things done, right? So I can cook dinner, do dishes, laundry, and then I feel guilty at his bedtime because I didn't feel like I got enough time with him throughout the day. I appreciate this person being very honest about their struggle. I think this is where another lesson comes in about how we model things for our kids. I think there's a lot of times when parents want they see their kid managing their time poorly, and you want them to do something different, but you don't actually model any of those things for it. Get off the thing and go read a book. Go get off the device and go read a book. Well, when's the last time they saw you reading a book? You've probably read one book in front of them in the last 3 years. But for some reason, you think that because they're a child and they're spending too much time in this game, you need to get off and read a book. Well, again, that's why in the world would they ever do something that they never see you do? Okay, what you're trying to tell them is that as an adult, you're never going to have to read books. You're never going to have to worry about that. So, why would you have to worry about it now? So, again, the modeling part is a really big deal. If you spend a great deal of time, you come home from work, and I understand your kids don't understand the complexity of this, but when all they see is you kick off your shoes and drink your glass or two of wine and zone out in front of your mom's shows and dad's TV and dad's game, then they wonder why you're upset with them when they do the exact same thing. They just want to zone out and watch this series of whatever they're watching again. It's a conflict, and I understand the conflict. It's a struggle that you feel. Parents see it in their kids. They get very upset. They don't feel the need to change it as a parent, but they want their kid to do differently. And I'm just going to let you know the tension's never going to go away until you understand that this kind of works together. This all works together. So, if you feel bad, like for example, if this isn't any different than when I grew up. My parents would allow me to watch TV or something while they made dinner, and that was fine. But I also wasn't allowed to watch TV when I got home from school. And part of that, I'm assuming, based on conversations with them, some of that was intentional. Why? Because they needed me kind of preoccupied if I wasn't helping make dinner at the time. I had a big family, so I was the youngest. So it was one of those things where it's okay for Matt to play his game and watch TV during this time, and because he's going to, then we're going to engage in something else when he gets home from school. That's just the way it is. So I'm just trying to let you know, you shouldn't feel necessarily bad if that helps in your situation to let your kid play a game on the phone. I do this with my little 3.5-year-old. She has little PBS games. She eats dinner in about a third of the time that the rest of us do, especially when we're out at a restaurant. And my 3-year-old has no concept of time, no concept of what it looks like to not just get up and run around and be done, because that's what they do at home. So dinner's done, and we do our best to keep things together. But I'm done. So in the reality, like for me, I want to use that as a tool that I use as a parent to say, you know what. We need 5 more minutes so that my wife can finish her salad and peas and we can finish this and get the check. So I don't mind pulling the phone out and letting her play that game. That's not something I'm going to feel guilty about. But I also know why I'm doing it. There's an intention there. And I'm also going to pay attention to the fact that in that moment, she's not fully disengaged from what we're doing as a family because she's still with us. That's not something she just gets to say, give me the phone. Give me the phone, I want to play my game. No, that's my decision. My decision as to whether or not she does that. Early, we get to the restaurant, she doesn't get the phone. She gets to draw and talk and laugh and do the same thing that the rest of us are doing. But again, I know the reality. She's going to finish her little bit of food if she decides to eat it all. That's what we're dealing with at 3 years old. She's going to finish her food and be done before anybody else, and I don't want her to sit in her mom's lap and interrupt mom's dinner. I don't know how to, there's a whole mess of things that we choose to do that. So I think, again, this person who's really admitting this is really not any different than what your parents dealt with. It's just different in form. Just be intentional about it. Just say, listen, if there really is, a situation where you're it's all the weight's on you and they can't help you make dinner and you really do need them somewhat occupied, then don't let them watch TV earlier. Don't let them do that earlier, or maybe later. Don't let them do it later, engage in a way that you can engage with your kid, and then know that doesn't you're not going to feel guilty about the time they got to spend earlier. So that's my suggestion when it comes to just being intentional about the use of that, and not don't let guilt kind of run that for you. Most of this has to do with it's insecurities and things that we're dealing with that we kind of don't think we need to deal with. But we see it in our kids, and that's usually where a lot of this comes out. And here's the last one. The last one that I saw was when kids bypass all your measures. Okay, so when kids bypass the technology that you've put in place, or they're untruthful about private conversations, and they delete things, they're kind of going, and you're kind of aware that they're going behind your back. This is an issue of, again, access and guidance. You want to guide the resistance. Donnie did a great job Sunday talking about why we discipline, why we shouldn't discipline. We shouldn't punish. We should discipline, which is to guide. Punish is to control. Discipline is to guide. And so our goal is not to control our kids' behavior. Usually that's our default, because we just want them to be quiet, or we just want it to be done, or just so we want to control it. So we force that on. But to guide them is to say, okay, we know there's a trust issue here. How do we build that trust? And go from a place of saying, okay, listen, I'm going to try to find the technology that I can put in place that you can't bypass. And it's not because I don't trust you, but because it's my job as a parent to guide your access and what's available to you and the opportunities you have. If you need to, remove the accounts and take them away. If you need to, monitor it more closely. But depending on how old they are, it may be coming to a point in their life where if they're already able to bypass stuff and they're already able to do these things outside of your home, then it's just going to need to be through conversation and relationship. That they need to understand the true heart behind why you care about that. When they understand better why you care about the relationships they're having, when they understand why you care about the stuff they're posting, because it's permanent and it's forever and it can't be taken back. When they understand you're trying to teach them wisdom, when they understand that you're trying to help them and guide them through that, you're still going to get resistance. But our job is to continue to, within the resistance intention, to guide them the best we possibly can. And so I would worry a lot, probably less at that point, about the external security. That usually works for younger tweens and teens and things like that, and kids. I would worry probably less about that and more about the relationship, more about how it is you can continue to teach them and guide them in the way as to why it is you care and why it is that it matters. Because, again, most of the time for the kids, they can't really see past the moment, so they don't understand why it matters. Thank you guys so much for sending these in. These were some fantastic questions, and I understand that it's a tough road for everybody, tough road for all technology users, all parents, everybody who's struggling with how much should I let my kid do? How do I discipline in that? Again, most of that's subjective. I wish I could give you a scripture verse that says, "Thou shalt blank, blank, blank," with Xbox. I know it'd be a little bit easier, but the truth is, as a parent, you're given a broad charge to raise up a child in the way they should go, and most of our stuff is very broad. Praying for our children, leading our children, teaching them scripture, teaching them wisdom, and modeling it in our own lives. That's the charge. It's been the charge for parents since the dawn of parents. It hasn't changed, no matter the technological advancements, no matter the social structure. It has never changed what the parent's called to do. And that's what we're going to talk more about on Sunday, and help everybody kind of walk through. Technology itself is not bad. I'm personally a fan. I'm a fan of social media as long as people see it as a tool and they use it as a tool, and it's not something that we just are so dependent on or we just rely too much on. And how do we teach our kids? And how do we have a healthy, thriving, growing child and children that are living in this world? You're not going to change the world your children were born into. And brand newsflash, your grandkids are going to grow up in a different world than what even currently exists. And I don't say that to cause fear. I say that to say that your kids are going to have the same job that you have right now. And they're going to have the same challenges in a different form. But it's not going to change the challenge and the charge they've been given by God to raise their family. And so right now it's just our responsibility practically to find the solutions that we can find. Lean on each other, lean on your group, lean on the people that you're doing life with to help each other figure out these solutions and experiment with things and try things. That's one of the reasons I love groups and doing life with people, man. I'm not doing this alone. I have friends that are arm in arm with me with their kids, and we talk about all those things to help figure out what's the best way to handle this. And so I just encourage you in that way. All right, guys. That's it. We've gone a little bit longer than I wanted to go, but I sure hope this was helpful. Please leave comments throughout the week between now and Sunday. If there's anything else that you think of that you would love for me to try to address, and if it's a part of what I'm talking about on Sunday, I'll do my very best to bring it in. All right? Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday.